I'm gonna become a JYP for a day, and then I'm gonna make a Twice song. Let's get started. Now, JYP is known for a lot of things, including plastic pants. We don't have those, but we have the next best thing, because he's also known as a producer. In fact, over the course of his career, he has produced a ton of tracks for a lot of his groups. Nowadays, he doesn't really produce as much as he used to, but every now and then he'll have like a writing credit or a production credit on one of the songs. But I want to be JYP in his prime, and we're going to use that energy to make a new Twice song. Now, I realized that this was going to be a little bit harder than expected because I'm still an amateur producer, and I also don't really understand music theory very well. To make my life a little bit easier, I decided to take an already existing Twice song and then use that as a base to then create the new song. Kind of like how the Ian Asher remix of The Feels is, where it uses the vocals and even some of the instrumental from the original, but changes it into such a different song. The first thing is to choose the right song to remix, and for this, I decided to pick Cry For Me for two big reasons. The first thing is that it appeared on the Remixes album, but didn't actually get a remix, so I thought it would be kind of cool to give it one now. The second thing is that this song also is unique in the sense that it's dark and has these really deep vocals that I think we can use to make a really fun song. Alright, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to take the English version of Cry For Me. It has to be the English version because for some reason the vocals on this come out a little bit clearer. So we're gonna take that and then we're going to separate the vocals from the instrumental. To do this, I'm going to use a program called Universal Vocal Remover, and as the name implies, it removes vocals from instrumentals. We're not going to need the instrumental because we're going to make our own anyway, so for now, we're just going to focus on the vocals, and this is what it should sound like.
You don't know me, I love it, you hate friend. Hit you with a smile, look goodbye, all the while I'll be sure to leave you.
Great, now we're gonna go ahead and open up FL Studio, which is a digital audio workstation. Pretty much it just lets us make music, and it's widely used throughout the entire music industry, and it's the one that I know the best, so we're gonna use this one. Now, to make a song, you can actually start in multiple different ways. You can either create a melody first, maybe you have some vocals, or maybe you wanna do the drums. In our case, we are going to do the drums first because I want to create a sort of rhythm that I can then use to match the Twice vocals onto. To do this, I'm going to open up the channel rack, and as you can see here, the channel rack has different sections where you can put in different instruments or different sounds and create patterns out of them. So we're just going to focus on the drums, and if you can see on the left side, we have the different elements that make up a drum set. So we have claps, cymbals, kicks, snares, etc. And using this, we're going to start picking sounds that we like and building out the drum pattern. Now for this song, I wanted to go a little bit crazy, so we're gonna use the Astroworld sample pack, which is pretty much just a collection of different drum patterns that exist on Travis Scott's Astroworld album. Alright, so if we look on the channel rack, you're gonna notice that there are parts that are lit up and parts that are not. The lit up parts are instances in which the element is being activated. So for example, on the top row, we have the kick and only the kick. And each of these lit up parts is a moment where the kick is being pressed. So for example, this is what the kick sounds like. Great. And then we can move on to the next piece, which is the clap. Great. And the next piece is the hi-hat. Great. When we put it all together, this is the drum pattern. It's kind of simple, but for this song, I actually think simplicity is going to help us quite a lot. You're gonna see it gets really crazy later on. So we're gonna put this to the side, and now it's time to actually work on the Twice vocals. Alright, so within FL Studio, there is a program called Slice X, and when we import a song into this program, it pretty much slices the song into different chunks. so that each of these sections, each of these slices, act as a different sound within a piano roll. So for example, if we look at it like this, each of these markers are a different sound. And when we combine them in different orders, we can create some really interesting patterns. So I went ahead and literally listened to every single one of these markers and tried to rearrange them in so many different combinations until I found the one that I was really, really satisfied with. Marker 79 sounds like this. Marker 83 sounds like this. Marker 86. And marker 89. When we combine all of these together, this is the sound that we get. So we have drums, we have vocals, now we need some melody. To make a melody, I decided to use a synthesizer called Sakura. This pretty much just has a collection of different instruments and sounds that you can use to make more patterns. So in our case, I decided to look at the Eastern Dreams Bank, and this has like bass, bells, flutes, guitars, keyboards, but I wanted to use an organ. Now that we've chosen our instrument, we can go ahead and close this and then click on this gray section to open up the piano roll. And as you can see, it gives us keys like a real piano would. And we can play these. And it makes sounds that are obviously accurate to what they should if this was like a real organ. Okay, so the question now becomes, how do we make a melody? Well, when you click on one of the notes, it just makes a sound like that. But when you hold it, the note is sustained throughout the duration that you hold it. When you combine two different notes together, you make a chord. So in this case, this is what our pattern sounds like. There you go. All right, so I wanted the song to feel a little bit more funky, so I decided to add a bass. I decided to open a new version of Sakura up, and I picked the tech bass. Now, I chose this one because it has that techno feel, which, I mean, the song already has an electronic kind of vibe to it, so this is perfect. But also, for some wild reason, this version of this bass has a ton of reverb, and it just sounds insane when you put it in the mix. So I decided to go with this one. Now, just like we did with our melody, we can click on the piano roll and we can get the different notes that we can play. It sounds absolutely insane. Now, I already picked out the pattern that I wanted, and this actually took me quite a long time because finding the right feel to it without overwhelming the rest of the song was actually quite challenging. But this is the pattern that I came up with. Great. Now we can move on to the next step. Now, every good song needs good sound effects. We can either create our own or we can import sound effects that already exist. In this case, we're actually going to do a little bit of both. So we're going to go back to Sakura for one last time, and I'm going to select the E keys. These E keys have a ton of reverb, which in most cases is actually not a good thing, because when we open up the piano roll, it just sounds awful unless you only play a single note. Because the reverb makes it sound like it's actually being pressed multiple times. When we combine them in a pattern of 3, this is what it sounds like. It gives it the feeling that there's almost like an alarm sound or like a siren. It adds urgency into the song, and it also works as a transition into another section. All right, for this next sound effect, I wanted like a laser sound, and luckily the Astroworld sample pack that we took a look at earlier for the drums has a laser sound in one of the files. which was perfect. All we had to do is just take that sound, drag and drop it into the project, and we're good to go. All right, we have one more thing left before the song is complete, and that's more Twice vocals. Obviously, the whole point of this is to remix the Twice vocals and make a new song out of it, and right now we don't have enough. So I went back to the Slice X program, I clicked on the piano roll once again, and looked at all of the markers and decided to come up with a new pattern that we were going to use during the main part of the song. Marker 29 makes this sound. Marker 36 makes this sound. Marker 39. And then marker 42. Okay, here is what that sounds like when you put it all together. Now we have all the elements necessary to make this song sound crazy. All we have to do is spend some time to put it all together and reorder them as necessary. For your reference, I decided to color code everything to make it easier to see. So whenever you see dark blue, those are always drums. Green is sound effects, red is Twice vocals, light blue is the organ melody, and the orange one is the bass. All right, now it's time to bring everything in. So here you go, the full version. Hope you enjoy. And there you guys have it. That is the new song we created. Let me know what you guys think about it. It doesn't have a name and it's technically still not finished. I definitely want to go back in and add like actual vocals and like write some real lyrics down. But for now, I like the way that it is, and we'll see what happens. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon.